The Kashmiri proponents of the Great Exposition accord with the proponents of Sutra in asserting that the continuum of consciousness is a base that connects actions with the effects. I think this is the question related to, asked by, on here. Shall we do it? Or sometimes later? No or now? I don't.
Now, please.
I see, okay. Okay. Say someone accumulates a virtuous action, virtuous karma, 2008, and then, after 80 years, the person transmigrates to next life. So in between, the person, was always caught up in some busy schedule and these things, not really getting time to, think about virtuous or cultivate any powerful virtues. And then, the person transmigrates to the next life. Say that the person takes birth as, something, and this karma is not ripened. And then during the third life, this karma ripens into, ripens is result into a very favorable state whereby the person encounters with the practice of dharma, and then everything is so conducive for the practice. Wherever the person looks at, they are practitioners, everyone's so kind, so ready to help in terms of the spiritual path. But the question is, first life, second life, third life, that karma which ripens into such a favorable results was what this person accumulated 2 lives ago. And then in between, so say that karma was accumulated in the form of, feeling a deep sense of reverence and admiration to emptiness, the concept of emptiness, deep admiration and almost like tears running down. This is the kind of the experience, the virtue, enormous virtue that a person has accumulated. So that is the karma. So then the next day, it simply disappears. This kind of experience of, admiration, getting lost in the admiration over emptiness, the concept of emptiness, is not something which is going to last 24 hours. Again, when you eat food or you converse with other people, again, you can see something very attractive car, or how I wish I would have this, you forget about emptiness, But that virtuous karma is not something that will simply disappear like anything. It is not in the evident, manifest form, but still the potential should be there within you unless and until it ripens into results. So, it took 2 lifetimes for this karma to ripen. Now the question is, how is that karma transmitted, being carried from the first life to the second life to the third life? This is the question, right? So, the 4 different schools, they answer differently. Right? Particularly, the different answers will finally boil down into 3 different answers. Before reading anything there, I'd like to ask you, what is your opinion? And see if that can help me. Because I don't know how to answer this. Anyone? How do you think that this karma, of course this is, the very next moment, it is, going to become unmanifest. Because the very next moment, someone can easily say, hey guy, hey, or we need to do something else. Then your mind is already lost from emptiness, admiration and emptiness. Then your mind is something else. So that admiration in the emptiness, which is so manifest and so strong, the manifest state of that admiration into emptiness is what simply dissolves the next moment. But the potential of that is yet to ripen in the results. So it must be carried. It must, go from, one moment to the second, third, first life to the second life, second to the third. So how does it go? Who carries it? Anyone? Okay. So again, this is the beauty of Buddhism. This is the beauty of the teachings of the Buddha. So simply make it so simple. Don't try to, make it complicated unnecessarily. So it is the person who is going to take this to the first life, to the next life, like that. But how does this person carry this? The person, if you break the person down, you see that it's only the body and the mind. And the body cannot carry it, because the body, after death, is going to be buried, or is it going to be cremated, or, it's going to go to the next life. It's not going there. So it should be mind. Then which mind? The mind again, sensory minds, or the mental consciousness. So like that. So these we need to explore in these ways. Because eventually it is our mind which goes from one life to the other. So if there is someone which is carrying this karma from one life to the other, it should be the mind. But then what is the relationship between that karma which is being carried and the carrier, the mind as the carrier? What is the relationship? In what fashion it carries? So all different answers will finally boil down into 3 different answers. Right? Number 1, Vaibhashikas. Their position is so beautiful. They say that, it's very simple, don't worry. Say what you do is that if you want to take $1,000 to India, or if you really take it cash, hard cash, you're going to face difficulty. So you leave $1,000 here, because I have a friend there in India, friend there in India who needs to, for whom I need to send $1,000, right? Or say, I owe him, okay, right, I left $1,000 to that person in India, right? So you don't take money from here. You leave your money, $1,000, with me, and then you go to India yourself, and then get $1,000 from there, right? So, and then, but how will that person believe? Trust me, that, I'm the person who is supposed to be getting $1,000 from that person. Or don't worry, I'll give you a voucher, and then you sign, oh, please, Mr. Tsering, this is my friend, Damdul coming, and give $1,000. And then you take this paper. This is not $1,000. This is not $1,000. You take this with you in India, and you give it to Tsering, and Tsering will, oh, please, Damdul, please come. I've already received a call from my friend Dorji. Please come. Oh, here is your money. Oh, please, why don't you stay, stay in my room for the next few days, if you like. And then you get $1,000 there. So what really connects your $1,000 that you have here and what you got there in India? What connected? How was that transferred? By means of this. This is not $1,000, but this does the job of $1,000. Similarly, Vipashikas, the answer is exactly like this. In this life, say you accumulated that virtue, very strong, powerful virtue. And then this virtue is, is not always going to remain as so virtuous or, in a manifest state. Always, 24 hours you are getting lost in admiration and emptiness. It's not like that. However, the second moment, somebody says, hey, please come. There is, earthquake happening over there. You go there and your previous virtuous thought is lost. But it is not lost altogether. It remains in the form of voucher. Then you take that voucher with you. It has no value in itself. If you try to go to a bank and say that this is my $1,000, bank will say, are you mad? Are you insane? There's nothing. And the bank manager may even burn it. But you don't burn it. You take it with you. When you give it to Tsering, then it will serve the purpose of $1,000. So similarly, you take it with you, the next life, in the form of voucher. Next life. And a third life, when the conditions are gathered, then that voucher, will make sense as a powerful, virtuous karma. And then it will ripen into your desired, these states.
So what form is this voucher and who's carrying it?
It is the mind, it is a voucher which is attached, it is you who is going to take this voucher with you. Similarly, it is a mind which carries this voucher. So, so they don't really call it voucher, the Vipashikas. They didn't know how to use it. They said something like obtainer. Obtainer. So what happened was that, originally the person obtained the karma. And then, because of what you've obtained, at the same time you get a voucher-like, which is known as obtainer, to tell you that, to inform you that you have obtained it. Right? So this mind carries with it the substance known as obtainer. It's in the form of in the form of form, carries, but not in this concrete form. Very subtle form. Takes it. Oh, I think it is this not form. It is abstract or composite phenomena. Abstract. Yeah, it's not form. Yeah. So that is being carried, until to the point where it ripens into the result. When it's handed over to Tsering, that Tsering gives you $1,000. So like that. And then, say, and one set of Vipashika school says it slightly differently, put it slightly differently, saying that, hey, Venerable Chunyila, would you mind please lending me $100 or $1,000? Then you say, yes, okay. And then, oh, please. And then you say, oh, what credential you have? how can what can you give me to really assure me that you're going to give me, give that back to me? So there must be some form of credential. So, oh, it's fine. I'll sign. I'll write it on a piece of paper and I'll sign it. And you say, it's fine. So what you get is, you then lend me the amount, and then I will, oh, thank you for, lending me this amount of money. I'm going to give it back to you in 1 year from today. I signed. I give it to you, right? So this means that, again, if you take this with you to the bank, again, it makes no sense, right? It makes no sense. So, but you have lost your $1,000. $1,000 you don't have anymore, But you have this paper, and this paper is not $1,000. And yet, after 1 year, before 1 year, you take this and give it to me. Hey, what happens? Read this. Oh, yes, I know this, and then I'll give you back. So this, is valueless. But, it's just a piece of paper, not even $1. But it does the work of $1,000. Similarly, you have accumulated enormous amount of virtue. And this virtue is as though like you have, lent it to someone, and then you got a piece of paper, someone who signed, I don't know who that is, you have that. And then the next life, you take this with you. And the next life, you take this with you. And then you give it to the person or whoever it might be, and then the virtue is given back to you. And then it comes out, in the form of results. So this is how the Vaibhashikas explain. Now let's read what is said by the Vaibhashika, and then we'll go on with Sutrantika, Chittamatra, and Manoni school. So, all proponents of the great exposition, except for the Kashmiris, assert that a compositional phenomena that is neither form nor consciousness is the base that connects actions with their fruits. So this is an obtainer and a non-wastage. Non-wastage in the form of credential. You get, I signed it. I said that, oh, surely if you're going to show this to me next time, I'm surely going to, give back your money. So this is to guarantee that your money is not going to be wasted, not going to be lost. So there's going to be, the mind is going to carry with it as a substance known as obtainer, or some schools say substance known as non-wastage. The mind carries it with it. And then finally when it gives rise to the result, then the full, the energy of the virtue or the non-virtue is going to be manifested. This is an obtainer and a non-wastage, which is like a seal that guarantees a loan, preventing the loan from becoming a loss to the lender. Both this system and the consequent school assert that actions of body and speech have form. This is again a very separate issue. So now let me explain how the Sutrantikas and others explain, right? So we have Chittamatras, they explain it differently. And the Madhyamika, what is the highest Madhyamika? Prasangika. Prasangika, they have different version. Chittamatras, they have different version, right? Otherwise, the Swatantrika Madhyamika and Sutrantika, they share the explanation. And Chittamatra explanation, from one angle it is different, otherwise same. So now let me explain about, how the Sutrantikas and the Swatantrika Madhyamika explains it. So they say it's simple. Say you have rubber band, right? You have rubber band to tie your hair, right? So what do you think will happen? Say if the rubber band, Okay, let me give you this example. Okay, let me give you this example. You know, in my right hand is a rubber band, fresh rubber band. In my left hand is just you know, a small a string, you know, a circle, you know, circle form, and a rubber band also you know, circular. So from distance, if you don't touch it, you know, you will see these are just identical. It's just same thing. But in terms of nature, it's very different. You know, although they are of the same size in these things, but one is stretchable and the other is not. The rubber band has the ability to grow to, you know, bigger size, but that ordinary string doesn't have that potential. So, you know, but if you look at it, it's just same. Just same size, same color, same shape. But in terms of the rubber band, you know, not only that, you know, it has the qualities that what you see, it is a quality which is hidden also, which can be expandable. So similarly, our mind, you know, our mind, it has different qualities. For example, you know, say, while we were, you know, talking there in the kitchen, in the dining hall, you know, we were not at all thinking about impermanence in these things. But, you know, now when we think about impermanence in these things, it can you know, it can pop up so easily in our mind. So which means that when we were there, although it wasn't really so evidently in our mind, the reflections, thoughts of impermanence in these things, but it has the potential, you know, to give to pop up the ideas of impermanence so forth so easily. It has the potential. So what happens is that you accumulate a karma, say a karma by helping someone, you know, a sense of empathy, a sense of consideration for others, you know. So what happens is that the next moment you're being distracted by someone else. Hey, you come here, and you're already distracted. Your virtuous thought of benefiting the other person, you know, ceases for time being. So what happens is that although in the next moment, the mind is more neutral, but the previous moment's mind, which is so virtuous, it left the imprint on the mind. Imprint on the mind. Imprint on the mind means that this mind, if you think about the virtue again, it is so easy to think about it. You know, this is indication that the mind has the imprint, right? Say you have been, you know, say someone has been always in the pubs all the time for 25 years or for 30 years, never having, you know, studied any about emptiness or quantum mechanics and these things. And then all of a sudden, you know, he attends a quantum mechanics class. And do you expect that person to really understand it, you know, understanding of quantum mechanics popping up like that? No. Whereas someone who has been studying quantum mechanics for the last, you know, 20-something years, and then there is 1 year gap, and then attending the same class, what happened to this person? Quantum mechanics simply will pop up in his mind. So why? Is it just the same thing, same mind? Both the two, you know, two guys, the immediate year, both are found in pubs, but, you know, when they are taught quantum mechanics, one so easily popping up, and the other not. Why? This means that the one who has studied quantum mechanics for the last 20-something years, you know, although there was a gap of 1 year not studying it, but in those 20 years, he left some imprint in the mind. So the indication, the symptom of having left the imprint is that when introduced the same thing, easily pops up that idea. You know, so this is indication that the person has left an imprint on his mind, right? So similarly, what happens is that every time you do something virtuous or non-virtuous, you know, the next moment it leaves an imprint on the mind, right? It leaves an imprint on the mind. So then what happens is that the mind goes. When the mind goes, the mind also goes along with imprints. So these imprints, we call them as potentials, latencies, or imprints, you know, the karmic imprints. So this is how the mind carries it, right? So this is from the point of view of Sutrantika and Swatantrika Madhyamika, and also Chittamatra, but there is a slight additional thing in the case of Chittamatra, which I'm going to explain right now, right? And Prasangika, Prasangika accept what is being explained right now, you know, accept it, plus there is additional explanation by Prasangika. But this is what we should think, we should know about. This is how, you know, the imprints or the karmic imprints are carried by the mind from one life to the other life, you know. So this is a commonly accepted explanation on how the karmic imprints are being carried, transferred from one life to the other. So now Chittamatra, mindfulness school, there is one sub-school of mindfulness school who believes in a very special mental consciousness known as Alaya Vigyan. Alaya Vigyan, which can be translated as the basis of all consciousness. Consciousness, which is the basis of everything. Alaya Vigyan. So they say that it is not the ordinary mental consciousness, you know, which carries this potential, which carries this imprint. Rather, it is this special mind known as the Alaya Vigyan, which carries this imprint. So otherwise, as to how the imprints are carried, karmic imprints are carried, the explanation is the same. Now we go to Prasangika Madhyamika. Prasangika Madhyamika also accepts the explanation that we already did. Plus, there's one additional thing, which is complicated, and I won't hesitate to explain it right now, and I don't expect you to understand it, but still I'm going to do it for your reference in future, right? So, Prasangika, there is what is known as, so say, what will happen, say, there's a very tall building, and then all of a sudden there is earthquake, and the tall building is not at all strong, it's not at all stable. It's like, you know, 100 stories high, right? So all of a sudden there's earthquake, very strong earthquake. What happened to the building? It collapsed. But how will it collapse? Will it collapse just within a millisecond? It simply, you know, comes down to the earth? No. You know, first it will do like this, and then gradually it'll take time. It's not just within a millisecond that things simply, you know, like magic, simply, you know, coming down to the earth. It's not like that. So it takes time, and there's a whole process, right? Similarly, so what is this process, or what would be the English word for this process? Crumbling down, right? Or disintegration. So similarly, the karma, you know, the karma, you're involved with a very virtuous or non-virtuous thought. Okay, so when something comes to cease, there is a process. Before the complete ceasing, there's a process. This is known as disintegration. Similarly, you accumulate or you generate a very powerful virtuous thought or powerful virtuous karma. And then what happens is that the next moment it will disintegrate. So there is a process what is known as disintegration. Disintegration. So the karma will change into the disintegrated state of the karma. And the disintegrated state of the karma will also change into the disintegrated of the karma. So then it'll go on like this. It'll go on like this. So this is a very special exposition as to how the karma is transferred from one life to the other according to Prasangika. So it's not just in the form of the imprints, but also in the form of disintegratedness. The first moment of the karma will transfer into what? The disintegratedness of the karma. So this means that it has disintegrated, but the potential is there. Complete potential of the karma is there, but in the form of the disintegrated nature of the karma. And then, again, this is impermanent. Then the third moment, it will transfer into the disintegratedness of the karma. And then it will go on and on. But the potential is being, is always well intact there. Right? Potential is like the kind of example that I gave you. First you have the white cup, and the next day you paint it red, and the third day you paint it blue, fourth day you paint it green. So the cup changed from white to red to blue to green, but the basic cup is always there. The potential to hold water is always there. Similarly, the potential to give rise to, virtuous result or unfavorable result is always maintained, while the color of the karma is changed. The karma into the disintegratedness of the karma, into the disintegratedness of the karma, and what next? Then what in the 100th moment? Okay. Yeah, so you got it. So this is how the Prasangikas explain. Now the debate or the argument is that all other schools, other than Prasangika and Vaibhashika, sometimes Vaibhashika also, come up with Prasangika in terms of their philosophical positions. So this disintegratedness, other than Vaibhashika and Prasangika, all other Buddhist schools say that this is not impermanent phenomena. So how can something which is not impermanent, will ripen into, results such as favorable or unfavorable results? And then Prasangika says that, Vaibhashika says that, this is impermanent. Right? So this argument. Okay. Yes.
Disintegratedness seems to imply that it's weakening, but the law of karma says the karma is expanding. So that implication of weakening.
Good, very good question. Anyone who can help me? Yes. Please help me well. Don't bring to my embarrassment.
Well, I think of it like potential energy, like you have this kind of rock sitting up so high, and it has the potential to fall so many feet. And whether it's over here, or here, as long as it's at the same level, it can still fall that many feet.
Good. Very good. Does it answer your question? I don't know if it answered your question, but I was a little bit afraid of the answer kind of devaluing what I was trying to hold so dearly. But it didn't happen. But I don't know if that answered your question. Yeah. So actually, disintegratedness needs not necessarily be understood the way the ordinary people understand this word. Disintegratedness in this context simply means, say the Buddha's mind, you know, the first moment of the Buddha's mind changed into the second moment of the Buddha's mind. It is also impermanent. But it doesn't, you know, becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. The Buddha's mind is always of the same quality of the perfection. You know, even if the first moment, of course, without disintegrating into the second, how can it change? So disintegratedness need not necessarily be, you know, something changing from good to bad. It can be from good to good, good to good, good to good, perfect to perfect, 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 you know. Similarly, disintegratedness here should not be thought of in terms of how the ordinary people interpret it to be like, you know. It simply means, you know, changing from the first moment to the second, second to the third, as simple as that. So in this case, you know, from that perspective, disintegratedness can be from good to good, good to good, good to good, or good to bad, bad to worse, worse to worst, or bad to good, good to better, Maru. What? Bad to worse to some extent good, worse to some bad, then better, good, best. You know, it can go like this, right? So when it comes to philosophical usage of the term, it's really very precise, and it need not necessarily, you know, mean the way the ordinary people understands it.
It's like a function of impermanence.
Yeah.
In that case, the rock works.
The rock works.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
So disintegratedness is a positive phenomenon?
Good, very good question. So this is a discussion, you know, discussion held in Lama Tsongkhapa's commentary on Arya Nagarjuna's, Arya Chandrakirti's supplement to the Middle Way. So where he said that, now to be very straightforward, Lama Tsongkhapa said that it is not positive, it is negative phenomena. And of the two negatives, it is affirming negative. Now it is your homework to explore as to how it is negative and affirming negative.
And impermanent.
Of course. So from the point of view of Prasangika. But from the point of view of other schools, you know, excluding Vaibhashika, you know, it is permanent. Yeah, but Prasangika says it's impermanent. Okay, now let's read. Both this system and the consequence, both this system referring to Vaibhashika and the consequence referring to Prasangikas, assert that actions of body and speech have form. Right? Whereas other schools believe that karma is only understood in the context of a mind, mental state, not physical and verbal. Next, all compounded phenomena are necessarily impermanent, but do not necessarily disintegrate moment by moment. Okay, so again this needs to be explained briefly. So according to Vaibhashika, so what do you think? You know, Vaibhashika, as I said earlier, Vaibhashika's view very much resonates resonates that of the ordinary people's belief and thinking. You know, what would he say? Oh look, you know, now a tree has grown and it will remain for a few years and then it will, you know, one day it will die. Right? So ordinary people, they have in the innate thinking, something first of all grows and then it abides and then disintegrate. This is how the ordinary people thinks. So similarly, Vaibhashika also thinks that way. Here look, all compounded phenomena are necessarily impermanent, but do not necessarily disintegrate moment by moment, because, you know, they need time to abide. You know, so it says, for the proponents of the great exposition assert that following production, first is the production, then there's the activity of duration, which means abiding, you know, duration, and then the activity of disintegration. So it is in sequence. But from the point of view of all other schools other than Vipassana itself, the production, abiding, and ceasing or disintegration, they're all simultaneous. Production, abiding, and disintegration, they're all simultaneous. From the point of view of all other Buddhist schools other than Vipassana. Right? Vipassana, there is sequence, it's not simultaneous. Sequence. Production, after production, there is duration or abiding. After that, then disintegration. Right? Okay. Assertion regarding object possessors. Now with this, we finished with, the basis, the path, and the result. The basis, it has two. It is taught in two. The object and the object possessors, meaning the subject, object and subject. So the object part already explained, finished. And now the subject. The subject, which views objects. So basically there are three. The persons, they view the objects, and also the sounds. For example, if I say impermanence, so this is simply my sound. I use the sound to, specify, to mention impermanence. So the impermanence as the object, and my sound which utters the word impermanence is the subject. The sound can be subject. The person can be subject. And the mind can be also subject. I can think of impermanence. Impermanence is the object, and the mind which thinks about the impermanence is the subject. So the subject is a little bit ambiguous word. Or what is the subject you are studying? So that sense. And a subject in the sense of the agent which views the object. The kind of subject which is referring to here is the agent which views or which, expresses the object. So now let's read. This is quite easy. And also the mind part, this is more complicated. Otherwise, quite easy. Assertions regarding object possessors or subjects. This section has three parts. The general exposition schools, assertions regarding persons. So the persons, consciousnesses, meaning minds. Persons, minds, and terms, all the sounds. First, persons. What does it mean by person? So then it defines the mere collection of the mental and the physical aggregates that are its basis of imputation is an illustration of a person. So what is person? This is the exploration, So the Vipassakas, they say that it is the mere collection of the mental and the physical aggregates. So how many aggregates are there? There are 5 aggregates. So which can be summarized into 2, the physical aggregate and the mental aggregate. The person is nothing but a collection of the body and the mind. Mental and physical aggregates that are its basis of imputation is an illustration of a person. Some of the 5 Samitya sub-schools, referring to sub-schools of Vipassana, assert that all 5 aggregates are an illustration of a person. Some of the Vipassakas say that, our body is also person. Our mind is also person. And what are the 5 aggregates? The form, feeling, discrimination, composition factor, consciousness. So some of the Vipassakas, they say that each of these 5 aggregates is the person or the self. The Avantakas assert that the mind alone is an illustration of a person. So within Vipassana, there are different, there are divergent views. And Avantakas, they believe that it is only the mind, which is self, and not the body. Okay, so this finishes with the explanation of the person. Next, consciousness. What is mind? So this is more important, more important, and also has more detailed explanation. Consciousness. This section has 2 parts. The great exposition schools, assertions regarding prime cognitions and assertions regarding non-prime consciousnesses. Okay, so let's see. Let's do, I don't know if I can finish this. Oh, I see. We can finish this. Oh, it's fine. We can finish this. We'll do with this. And the terms, it's quite easy. The terms, we're not going to explain too much on this. And then we'll stop on page 62. Assertions on the parts. Okay, we'll finish with this, the subjects. The consciousness, this is going to be quite useful because we can take this to Sutrantika's explanation position. Here, the consciousness, if you think about the consciousness, where are you right now? In Sravasti Abbey? Yes. How do you know that, what makes you think that you are in Sravasti Abbey? How do you know that you are in Sravasti Abbey? What made you think that you are in Sravasti Abbey? Okay, yeah, right, yeah. It is your consciousness. It is your consciousness. And do you really rely? Is your consciousness reliable? Because you said that, I'm in Sravasti Abbey, because my consciousness, sees that I'm in Sravasti Abbey. So this means that your consciousness, they're reliable. Say, for example, if there is a person by the name Tsering, and he sometimes tells you lie, and sometimes tells you truth, and one day, he tells you that, oh, you have good news. And then you tell me that, oh, I have a good news today. And who told you? Oh, Tsering told me. Oh, is he reliable? Or sometimes he is reliable, and sometimes not. So then how can you say that you have good news? So then at the most you can say that, oh, it seems like I have a good news, rather than saying that I have a good news. Because Tsering is not a reliable person. So similarly, if your consciousness, they are not reliable, how can you say that you are in Sravasti Abbey? So tell me, how do you know that you are in Sravasti Abbey? So how do you decide? At least tell me. You're right. You decided that on the basis of your relying on the consciousness. So, therefore, among the consciousness plays a very important role in you making decisions. Right? So, of all these decision-making consciousnesses, tell me, how many people on this earth presently, can make computers? I think at least several thousand people, right? But who created the first computer? Maybe person A, right? And do you think that at the time of person A, there are several thousand people who can create a computer? No. But nowadays, the knowledge the person A has is so abundant. So many people has that. But to whom are you going to give the credit? To person A or the person, nowadays everyone, knowing about computers? To whom are you going to give the credit for this computer? Person A, because the knowledge that he came up with is through his own power, through his own intelligence. Whereas the knowledge that the people nowadays are having of computer is what they've learned from, already ready-made knowledge from others. It's not from their own side. So who is more intelligent? Person A, of course. It is from his own power, his own intelligence. Similarly, among those minds which play a very important role in making decisions, the first mind whichever makes the decision, this is going to be given the credit, and we're going to call them as the prime consciousness. Right? And all others, we're going to say non-prime consciousness. So let's see. This section, consciousnesses, this section has two parts. The great exposition school's assertions regarding prime cognitions and assertions regarding non-prime the consciousnesses. Right? Prime cognitions. There are direct prime cognitions and inferential prime cognitions. Say, oh, actually, I need something to place a cup. No, I need a table. So what do you say? The table is right in front of you. You will tell me that, right? Okay, so how do you know that the table is there in front of me? How do you know that? I can see that, you know. Did someone tell you that there's a table in front of me? No, there's no need. I can see it directly. So this is known as the direct perception. You know, say, you know, this table, is this table everlasting? You know, then you say no. Why? I cherish this table so much, and you are saying that it's not everlasting. And how can you convince me that this is not everlasting? If this is not everlasting, then I'm going to abandon it. I'm going to look for an everlasting table. So how can you convince me? How, please, you know, tell me. How can you tell me that this is everlasting? I can see it. Can you tell me like that? No. The impermanence of this table is not something that you can, you know, convince me by direct perception. So how are we going to do that?
Or, right.
Oh, good. Yeah. But it is not burnt right now. This is not what I'm seeing right now. So how will you do it? Then you will say that, look, you know, what if, you know, if we burn this, what will happen to this? You will ask this question to me. Then I will say, oh, this will, you know, catch fire. Then what will happen to this after this? Then it will become ash, you know, ashes. Is the table? No. I see. This is what you mean by impermanence of this table. Yes. So, is this something that you displayed to me, to my eyes? No. So how did you convince me of the impermanence of this table? By using reasons, you know, by using inferences and reasons in these things. So there are two different ways of, you know, getting to understanding. One by direct, you know, perception, and one by means of reasonings and inferences. So let's read. Prime cognitions. There are direct prime cognitions and inferential prime cognitions. So in terms of the subtler objects such as impermanence, emptiness, these things, don't ever try to, you know, show, you know, try to introduce emptiness to a small kid by saying, oh, there's emptiness over there. Don't ever try to do that. Emptiness is something you can introduce to someone only through inferential, you know, ways, by reasonings and these things. You can never point to something as, you know, saying that this is emptiness. It will happen only at the level of path of seeing, right? So before that, don't ever try to use direct perception, right? So there are direct prime cognitions and inferential prime cognitions. But whereas in order to prove that there's a table there, don't use inferential cognition. You know, to prove that there's a table in front of me, simply say that I can see it. Don't say that it is because, you know, of something else. Don't say like that. Don't beat about the bush. Simply be direct. Or is what you are seeing there, what you see in front of you is table. This is known as direct perception. And then reasons you are trying to prove of emptiness, impermanence, these things, they are known as inferential cognition. Cognition or understanding by means of inferences, right? There are direct prime cognitions and inferential prime cognitions. With regard to direct prime cognitions, they assert, now how many kinds of direct perceptions are there? Direct cognitions are there. They assert sense direct perceptions, which means, you know, your senses are what you can see by your eyes, you know, eye sense consciousness. The sound that you hear, ear sense consciousness. The smell that you know, sense, the nose sense consciousness. The body, the tactility that you can sense, the bodily sense consciousness. And what else? And the tongue, you know, the taste. So, sense direct perceptions, mental direct perceptions. Mental direct perceptions would be like, you know, mental direct perceptions would be, say, the Buddha's mind. the Buddha's mind, say Buddha's eyes are closed and everything, and yet his mind can see everything as though like, he's seeing everything by his eyes. So for him, perception by eyes and perception by his mind, there's no difference in terms of clarity. But for us, look at this table, everyone. This is your work, this is your classwork. Look at the table. How does it look? You see that? Now close your eyes. Think of the table, the same table. You can think of that. So now you open your eyes. So what is the difference in the clarity of the table? When you see that by direct eyes and when closing, what is the difference? There's a difference, big difference. When your eyes are open, it's so clear. When your eyes are closed, it's so dull and vague, right? So, whereas in the case of the Buddha, it's just the same. So when your eyes are closed and when you think of the table, so that mind which thinks of the table is known as mental consciousness. And yet in our case, most of the mental consciousnesses, they are so dull and not clear. So they are not direct perception. Right? Whereas in the case of the Buddha, it is direct perception. Mental perception, mental direct perceptions, and yogic direct perceptions. Yogic direct perceptions includes, those deep meditative states of the path of seeing, path of meditation, where they perceive the 16 characteristics of the Four Noble Truths. So, focus, single-pointedly, non-conceptually. I think better we go, yeah. Then, unlike the other schools, the proponents of the Great Exposition assert that a sense-direct prime cognition is not necessarily a consciousness because a physical eye sense is a common locus of being matter, of being a perception, and of being a prime cognition. So, say, this table, can it sense something? This table, can it sense that, I'm here talking? No, it cannot sense anything. Why? Because it is matter, right? Whereas from the point of view of Vipassana, our eye sense, which is also a matter, it can sense something. So this is prime cognition. It is, conscious. It is not. It is a prime cognition. It cognizes. It can sense something. So for to be a prime cognition, it may not necessarily be a mind. So anyway, this is just a side thing. Just leave that. They assert that a sense consciousness comprehends its object nakedly. So what happens when you close your eyes and when you think of the table? Can you think of the table? Yes. But are you seeing the table directly? No. So what is that image then? This is a mental image, right? So from the point of view of science, this is quite interesting. From the point of view of science, when you look at the table, why is it the case that in the nighttime when there's no light, you cannot see the table, and in the daytime you can see the table? Why?
Your eye consciousness can't see it in dark.
Why? Why not?
Because you don't have enough stimulation to the receptors in your eye.
So what is that stimulation?
The reflection.
Good. So the light should first fall on the table, and then it should bounce to our eyes, right? So because the what connects your eye consciousness and the table is the light, So the light, it creates a picture. What is that? Retina? At the back of the retina, it creates a picture. So actually, it is by means of the picture that you think there is a table over there. That you imagine that you are seeing a table. So actually, in true sense, you are using a picture, not direct contact with the table. There is a picture in between, Whereas, so this is what is being said by all other Buddhist schools other than Vipassana. It is only Vipassana who said that, no, there is no picture. It is direct contact between the object and subject. So let's see. They assert that a sense consciousness comprehends this object nakedly, meaning without the in-between image, without taking on the aspect of that object, referring to the image of the object. Also, they assert that even a physical eye sense power, which is the base of an eye consciousness, persists form, for they say that if a consciousness alone were the seer, then one would see forms that are obstructed by walls and so forth. A mind and its matter factors are asserted to be different substantial entities is fine. A non-prime consciousness, a wrong consciousness, and so forth. Non-prime consciousness means all other consciousnesses which are not the first moment of the consciousness. First moment of the consciousness, they get the credit because it is that consciousness which founds the object first. Just as the first person who invented the computer, he gets the credit for everything. The rest simply imitates the first. So similarly, the first mind which understands the table, that is valid cognition or the prime cognition. The rest of the consciousnesses, they simply imitate the first consciousness in understanding the object. Terms. So terms, this I'm going to, I don't know if I need to read it. It's just, it's not so important. So with this we finish. We finish the part on the basis. The basis, it is of the two groups, the object and the subject. We finished the two. Now we are on the actual parts, assertions of the part. The basis, part, and the result. Okay, we stop here. Quite a journey.